advertising is completely upended with AI. But the bigger thing that's happening is that AI is changing the way that people search for things, and it's changing the way that advertisers can get in front of them. You know what
Yeah.
you can't do with AI? Caregiving. Cannot do caregiving. So
Yeah.
caregiving is going to become, I think, extremely important because it's not just our babies there, but it's also our parents, grandparents. If we never have to write another email or social media post again for the rest of our life, we would not lose a tear, or a moment of sleepover.
Suzanne, welcome in.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So happy to be speaking with someone who is in Columbus, Ohio. It's my alma mater at Ohio State. I would ask you how's the weather over there, but I think I already know. It's like,
Oh my gosh, it's perfect. It is perfect football weather. Everybody has football frenzy. The stores are sold out. I was actually at the grocery store yesterday. 0 hot dog buns, no hamburgers. All the bratwursts are gone. People are ready to lose their minds to play Texas. Yeah, we're all ready.
yeah, Buckeye football season is a season in itself.
It is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Speaking of the changing weather, digital marketing is changing like crazy.
Yeah.
What is with AI Owl and all your other projects, which I'm sure we'll go into,
Yeah.
like what's the through line that you're seeing in terms of like how everything is changing? Like what's some of the commonalities that you're seeing through all of your projects?
Well, one thing that's really interesting in the position that I sit in, I'm kind of at this crossroads of being the CMO of Web to Market, which is traditionally an e-commerce digital marketing company. And then I'm an instructor out there working with AI Al to increase the AI literacy and upskilling the Ohio workforce. And right there, as you get to the crossroads, you get really advertising, right? And so one of the things I'm constantly teaching, especially our for-profit clients, but also we see in my own clientele that we're consulting to, is advertising is completely upended with AI. And so it's now about, it was fractured before. At some point we had like email and text, and then we had paid ads, and it seemed simple. Then we went to Meta, and everybody got complicated. Then we went to all these different channels. Then we threw in Spotify, right? Now we've got Reddit in the mix. But the bigger thing that's happening is that AI is changing the way that people search for things, and it's changing the way that advertisers can get in front of them. So while the consumer has gotten so much more fractured in their ability to focus and even to where do you get to them? It's gotten even more so because AI has different techniques that you have to get into. Let's say ChatGPT. You need to get into what that world of advertising is looking like. So now it's kind of a race to, have you created your own GPT? Have you created your own gem or artifact, depending what platform you're on? And how can you take that and put your own brand on it? It's a completely, in my opinion, greenfield opportunity for thought leadership again, right? And so it's really fascinating to watch who's kind of getting the bug and getting into that to say, hey, listen, we need to figure out again how we reshape this and get in front of consumers that we want. So it's exciting, but it's also a little bit of a nail biter if you're a marketer.
Yeah.
Because it's getting even harder and harder right? So you really need people that have a omni-channel, really understand techniques, et cetera. And so all these people that say, and I can be my own do-it-yourself marketer and just, I can just go in and ChatGPT that. You can, but you still have to actually know how to do it. So I'm skeptical, of course, because I'm going to protect my own technical training and my own craft there, but there's still craft to it. Having said that, I think that the tools can help digital marketing a lot, right? So, I think I'll speak on behalf of most marketers. Most of us, if we never have to write another email or social media post again for the rest of our life, we would not lose a tear, or a moment of sleepover because there's so much rigmarole. So anything we can do to speed it up would be great. So AI in that regard, let's talk video. Video is just pouring out now. It's so much easier to not have, post-production. Used to be like you take all this video and like weeks later, you're like, what happened to the video? You see it all the time in associations, spend thousands of dollars, filming their conference, and you never know what happens to it. But now it should be, you should turn that stuff very quickly, be able to clip it, get it out to social media, right? And kind of better compete in the volume game.
Yeah. Speaking of video production, I saw Nano Banana is kind of like the hot thing right now. And is it like a partnership, or I don't know what the other app is called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Right, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, it just came out. Yeah, but staying on top of all these things, it's right. It's crazy. At AIL, we have an actual bot just running on trying to pull together AI stories, right? Pull those
Mm.
together
Mhm.
to aggregate it so we can just at least halfway keep up with it because the landscape is changing so incredibly rapidly. And
Yeah.
here's another thing I'll tell you that's a real trend. It's this is the good and bad of AI, and we talk about all the time. So one of the things at AIL that we do is we really make sure that we have an ethics course, and
Mm.
that's required of anyone who's taking it. And so, through Ohio's TechCred program, I don't know if you know this, but your previous alma mater, great state of Ohio, has this
Yes.
awesome tech cred. So any organization of really any size, for profit, nonprofit, educational, religious, etc., they can actually get reimbursed to get this AI training. So it's a
Mm.
win-win. I mean, it's
Oh my
phenomenal,
gosh.
right? It's nothing for, so we're just out there, going gangbusters and doing this. But in saying that, one
That's
of the
through the state of Ohio? Sorry.
through the state of Ohio, yes, the
Wow.
Senator
Okay.
Husted, that's his baby project, this tech cred program
Nice.
that's there and is part of workforce development. Yeah, Ohio's on the cutting edge,
Yeah.
OH.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I
Oh,
owe
so
to that.
since we're talking about this, I'm gonna help this one even more so being a good ambassador. So do you
Yes.
know what Ohio's nickname is that we're going for here? Have you heard this?
It's not the Buckeye State anymore?
It's the Buckeye State still, but you've got Silicon Valley, right, which is
Uh-huh.
in
Uh-huh.
California.
San
You
Fran,
got
yeah.
Silicon Alley in New York, and Ohio is now trying to claim the Silicon Heartland.
Oh, I love it.
Have you
I
heard that?
love it. Yes. You know what? I have a couple friends who I went to Ohio State with and they moved to California. They moved to Silicon Valley
Yes.
area.
Yeah.
And now after, a decade or so, they're moving back to Ohio because tech jobs like with tech brings all kinds of other industry jobs. So yeah, and yeah,
Ohio is gonna
since,
be a
since
hotbed. I'm just telling you now, you need to buy your property now and come back over from Phoenix and come back to the great state of Ohio here.
yeah.
I mean, I got the message early, like 10 years ago, I moved from Washington, DC to Ohio. I saw the potential of Columbus then. So I'm
Mm,
like to put down on the record, I'm an early mover.
early
Early
adopter.
adopter. Yes, early adopter. But I will tell you, just in case you're wondering, yes, there are T-shirts for that. You can get your own
Nice.
Silicon Heartland, and that would be badass out in Phoenix,
Yeah.
Arizona.
The Silicon Heartland, when I went back to, Columbus to visit my sister in June, I surprised her for her birthday, and I was just blown away at the economic development, the
Oh my
city
gosh,
has
yeah.
just turned into and you know what? I noticed there's a difference in Ohio. There's a different feel because it feels like a neighborhood.
Mhm.
It's not like Silicon Valley or San Francisco or wherever where, yes, there are tall buildings, Salesforce, and all these like
Right.
impressive places, but like in Ohio, people talk to each other and there's very much a community. Like it's is very much a sense of community, which is huge when it comes
Mhm.
to like innovation and partnerships. Like nobody's developing in a silo right now. I even heard that Ohio State, speaking of
Yeah,
development programs, Ohio State is pushing an AI literacy program for all its incoming freshmen where they will have to go through, no
that
matter
is
your
correct.
major. Yeah.
It
Do you
is
know anything about that?
absolutely. So they came out with it maybe 2 months ago, and they said starting with the incoming class of 2029, which is coming into the fall,
Mhm.
now, yes, that's true.
Mhm.
That they have that AI will just be infused in every part of the curriculum. So it's not some set aside. It's just has to be part and parcel to everything
Mhm.
that they're doing. So you can imagine how quickly they had to turn that curriculum over, but
Yeah.
it's everywhere. And I love that they're doing that because it does disrupt everything, right? AI is in every aspect that we're of every industry. I keep in all my classes, I keep trying to rack my brains and like what industry has not been disrupted by AI. And I thought maybe like the funeral business and mortuary
Mm.
stuff until one guy in my class in Windham, Ohio said, nope, my father's a mortician and he uses AI to figure out like all the, balance of the embalming fluids. So there goes that theory. I got
Whoa.
nothing. So
Oh
if you've
my
got a listener
gosh.
out there who's got some ideas, yeah,
Maybe
it's
like yoga or breath work, I would
yeah, I
imagine.
think anything maybe like, but I think even with that, I think even with that, I think people are starting to improve their actual programs, like the yoga teachers using Chat, GPT, or whatever
Sure.
to get a big thing. As a matter of fact, I'll
Mhm.
tell you an awesome two awesome stories of AI changing people's lives for the positive.
Yeah.
I had this woman that I was coaching, and she's like in her 40s. She has her entire personal training license through certification through NASM, which is a really hard one to get. It's a big one to
Mm.
have. But she's just teaching at Orange Theory, which she loves, but
Mhm.
she's wants to make more money, right? And I'm like, "Listen, you've got all of your certifications. Why are you not doing personal training?" And she said
Mm.
her blocking point was, while she knows the exercises, she's got imposter syndrome and she has a
Mhm.
hard time with putting together the program for the client. So I
Mhm.
said, listen, let's switch over. Let me pull up an AI tool, right? And I started giving the full prompt of like, I've got a woman who I'm training with a BMI of 32 who hates to run, who has a knee problem, but, loves to do strength training, whatever, wants great biceps, right, wants to have good gastrocs, whatever. And it came through the whole training and she started crying. And she's like, "This is what I've been missing."
Yeah.
She's like, and I go, "Do you know how to do all these exercises? How to" She's like, "Oh yeah, 100%." All she was missing was that organization, and I think
Mhm.
a lot of us are missing kind of that organization. And
Mhm.
then same thing, another story, this 82-year-old was in my class, and she is like the town historian, and she knows all of the stories, but she just can't get it her time to sit down and type it all out, right?
Mm.
So I showed her, I said, "Listen, look at the thing where you just do the function where you just talk into it. And if you're next level AI person, you're not doing prompt engineering with typing, you're doing it with your voice, right?" So I said, just walk around the town and talk to all the houses and get it in there.
Nice.
Right? So then she has
Yeah.
an incredible way because she can download her thinking very,
Mhm.
very quickly, right? And just get it all in there. And then she can create the book and edit it and the whole thing and be that stuff is not going to be lost. So those are awesome, like real life stories of
Yeah.
AI changing,
Yeah.
lives.
Real use cases, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. On the converse, I'd say the other thing that's changing, I get bombarded like, oh my gosh, 3, 4 times a week. Someone calls me up and they're like, "Hey, can you just talk to our chatbot for like the next 12 hours? Like, we'll build you any app you want for free, right? We just want
Uh-huh.
you to give all your subject matter expertise into
Mm.
this thing, right? And we'll give you 10% of the app, right?"
Mm.
So it's one of the things like people have to start thinking about, do I want to do that? And one of the things
Yeah.
I think is fascinating that's changing both e-commerce, it's changing all of our thinking is that when technology is used to come into the marketplace, it favored the young, right?
Mhm.
It favored the youth and the savviness. And like it was just thought, oh, they're younger, they're going to be savvier.
Mhm.
AI is a little different. It's really about the subject matter expertise, right? So
Yeah.
it's no longer
Yeah.
pushing buttons. It's no longer it's really, do you know what you want, how to give directions, right? And how to actually, be able to synthesize a new idea together. And that's a
Mm.
game changer. So I think that
Mhm.
we're going to see a change when we get back to things I'm seeing in the industry. You're seeing people pulled back into the workforce that have
Mm.
subject matter expertise, who they were kind of shoved out maybe by younger people because it's always this American, I want the younger, cheaper labor. But you're
Mhm.
starting to see this inverse in that, right? And so I think there's a big disruption going on about how that's going to play out. And then on
Mm.
that note, just this morning, I saw an article saying women who have children under 5 are just leaving the workforce like crazy. Like they're just like, forget it. It's just
Why?
I can't do this. It's just too much. It's hard as hell.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
why.
don't know. I don't know
I'll
personally.
tell you, I've only taken off 6 weeks on each baby of mine, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's so difficult, and they're
Yeah.
just saying like, "Hey, and millennials were not brought up with that's a different thing." It was like, you're supposed to have self-care. Well, self-care and working mother,
Yeah. It doesn't overlap.
doesn't overlap. So you know what you
Yeah.
can't do with AI? Caregiving. Cannot do
Yeah.
caregiving. So
Yeah.
caregiving is going to become, I think, extremely important because
Mm.
it's not just our babies there, but it's also, our parents, grandparents, etc.
Mhm.
And right now, I don't know if you've heard this, but I tell all my classes, we're in something called peak 65. So more than 10,000 people a day in the US will turn 65 starting in
Wow.
January for the next 3 years. So we're in a huge change. Exactly. We're in a huge change
Yeah.
of population dynamics. And what
Mhm.
does that mean? So when we talk about what's going to happen with all the advertising, all the digital marketing, we cannot leave any population behind now because we've got, I mean, 65 is not old. They're still savvy. They
No.
were still in the workforce with all this, but we need to be very intentional in making sure that we are not leaving any generation out with this because AI is too prolific,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they
And
need it for
like
caregiving.
a lot of the when we're talking about advertising, Meta is such a huge opportunity. And that's where, my father in law, who's in his 60s, my
Mhm,
mom is almost 60, and they both spend a lot of their time on Facebook.
mhm.
And yeah, so the advertising opportunity, what are your thoughts on, and maybe you can speak to this, but what are your thoughts on when Zuckerberg was saying that Meta is just going to essentially take orders? They'll be like, okay, just tell us what you need. We have all the data, we have the distribution, we have the AI generation, we know what converts. How is that going to affect the creative workforce and like agencies in general? I mean, do you think that'll be like prolific in the next year, 2 years, or will it take a long time?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think again, it's speeding everything up. I mean, I think one of the concerns I have with all the for profits running AI, which is the case now, right? So
Hmm.
it's cowboy country. I mean, there's no like, that's who's running AI. It's for profits, and so
Yeah.
they're profit maximizing organizations for their shareholders. And so
Hmm.
while I think all of that is great and it sounds great, I do think we need to be careful because we are wiping out like entire, levels of jobs and things like that.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
do have to say where's everyone going to go, right?
Yeah.
So
True.
we need to not retard the growth there, right? But we need
Hmm.
to think about, are we shifting and creating other jobs, and what does that look like,
Hmm.
et cetera. Now, the thing I will say is we're in a population shift. So,
Hmm.
the millennials are the largest population that we have on the planet, right? And so even them, I hate to tell all you millennials, you're not that young anymore, right? And then the
Yeah.
generation, so
Hmm.
there's going to be a
Hmm.
lot of the, right? But we need to, I think we're going to have a lot of creativity in what we're doing. I think it's disruptive to their own lawyer. They can be their own digital marketer. They can be their own
Hmm.
writer, et cetera. So I do wonder often if like kind of quote unquote real marketing is going to become like craft breweries, right? It's going to become like craft
Yeah.
brew. So now you're
Uh-huh.
like, look, this was actually authored by me, right? Like a real
Mm.
person. Like I didn't use any AI, and you're putting like, human generated on it as your,
Yeah, right.
and it becomes a craft thing and really premium. I also think that there's so much content being generated by AI, like
Mhm.
blogs and blah, 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 that at some point no one's going to read it. The AI, we're just creating blogs, and then AI is reading the blogs to say, should we read it? And it's just
Yes.
all this stuff. And humans will now just stop reading, move over to video, and then they'll get too
Mhm.
much video, and then move over to audio, and then get rid of that, right? And we're just going to fall into the dark ages because all of this, right? And
Where
all you
where did I hear? I think, speaking of Ohio being a tech hub now, there is a company out of Cleveland. They're called Marketing AI Institute.
okay.
And yeah, definitely check into them. Actually, you know what? I'm going to send you information after this. They have a conference coming up in October. It's in
Oh,
Cleveland.
perfect. Okay.
And I think that would be like right up your
Yeah.
alley. But they were saying, how millennials look at the generation above, like Gen, what do you call it?
X.
Gen X. Yeah, sure.
Don't
I
do
almost said
not
boomers.
listen, do not put me in the boomer category. Every millennial does that. We forget, don't forget about Gen X. We're in there.
Yes.
We brought
Yes.
you hip hop, right? Like, come on, man.
The Gen X, but he was saying like as millennials look up and say like, "Hey, smoking is bad for you. Drop that cigarette." The Gen Z behind the millennials eventually, will look up and say, "Guys, what are you doing? That phone is toxic for your health. Like,
Right.
don't you know? Like, haven't you seen the studies?" So it is interesting to see like saturations of different mediums will influence consumer behavior.
Oh,
And at the
100%.
same time, like you were talking at the top here with artifacts and gems and custom chat GPTs, it seems like everything is becoming more and more custom to the user,
Mhm,
almost to a point where having a website is going to be a thing of the past, and like
mhm.
having an automated generated website for each specific user is almost
Yep.
like, going to be the way to go. How do you see the personalization happening on the consumer level, and how can like marketers and brands adapt to how quickly things are changing? Are there any entry points of how we can become more personalized to the user as marketers?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think we're going to see the agenic AI, like that,
Mhm.
having an agent to do kind of your piece of it. That is going to
Mhm.
become pervasive. And so everything will know you so well that you've got like this personal shopper out there in the world, so that
Yeah.
you're not having to sift through all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Right, and I think what is gonna happen is some of these other dimensions that, I mean, marketers love to talk about demographics, infographics, psychographics, and most of us don't really ever get the data or have, like, the speed at really doing it, right? It's a very
Mhm.
small percentage, and it's, large companies, but, like, all the whatever the number is of 88 million or whatever small businesses in the US don't really have access to that. With AI,
Mm,
you do have a shot at getting a little bit more competitive with that.
mhm,
So I think that's part of it. But I think the other thing is that we're in this trust economy now. And I think
mhm,
what you're going to see is like most technologies that come out, the first and foremost they go after is efficiency. They come in and the
mhm,
first thing they say is, how do we make it more efficient? Right. And I think with AI, that we're, and of course, so when they introduced AI, they went after just like everything else, they went after customer service, right? Was
mhm,
one of the first things to be taken. And so like, oh, we'll just get an AI chatbot. Everybody will love that, right? We'll just automate our phone stuff. And so how many people get on the phone and they're like, zero, zero,
yeah,
agent,
yeah,
representative, because we hate it. We hate it. I don't want to be asked a million questions. I just want to talk to somebody who I can give my full kind of piece of it. Now, again, AI and the agentic agents could get to that level, but I think you're going to also see a pullback of customer service and this kind of rollback where people are like, you know
mm,
what? I don't want to go and do self checkout. Like if I have
mm,
one item, buying water, great. Anything else, I want it to be a customized thing where people know me, they get me, and I think it's going to be far more values driven, right? Which
mm,
is good and bad because we're not exactly a homogenous society at the moment. But I think you're going to see people pull into even more kind of tribes of their values to say,
mm,
I want to be with my time, et cetera, is spent with people who know me or like me, et cetera. And like my AI bot gets me, right? So it's going
mhm,
to by default, like by knowing it and by unintentionally biasing your bot, it's going to go out and just keep make everybody a little bubble or little
mm,
bubbles, right? And we're already bubbles. We have lots of bubbles in the United States. So how do we break through that? I think the unification process is going to be something that we really have to tackle because it's becoming so customized. And it's
mhm,
tough for society because at some point it can't be all about you.
mhm.
It can, but you
Shocker.
need to go somewhere else because you can't run a society when everybody is so individualized and about your
Mhm.
own self needs.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the concept. I first saw this with the whole Cambridge Analytica thing where everybody found out that they basically had their own unique news feed on their social media apps. And it almost seems like taking that concept of having a unique news feed. Now you have a unique website. Now you have
Mhm.
unique ads. Obviously, it's already here. How will that extrapolate out into other areas? The interesting thing that you're kind of alluding to is if I have a similar enough overlap in my interests and my desires and my purchasing behavior as somebody else, you know, it will be interesting to see how companies bring those people
Yeah.
together in sort of communities. And maybe it's not companies, maybe it's organizations, maybe it's nonprofits, who knows?
Mhm.
Institutions like Ohio State. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't
Right.
know. Yeah.
Right.
It'll be really interesting to see that. And it's not all although you're talking about for-profit companies that are looking to drive shareholder value if they're public, um, there is a greater good understanding that if we burn people out essentially and at the same time we displace enough people from the workforce, like what kind of economy will we have in order
Right.
to drive more value for the shareholder?
Yeah, 100%. And I think
Yeah.
what's interesting about that is I think we're gonna see, and I think we're seeing it now in the United States, we're seeing a turn where, I think again for so long, it's been dominated by your own personal interests, your own customization, you do you, right? It's all about you, you. And then there are certain things in life where you can't get it done by just one individual, right? And somehow
Mhm.
we've forgotten about that for a while. Like you can't win wars with just one individual. You can't pass laws with just one individual, right? And so a lot of these structures that have been seen as kind of archaic and not needed, I think you're going to see come back into society in full force, right?
Mm.
And so, like my previous position, I was working on a national association. It was really difficult to try to explain why you should pay money into this overall national association. And people are like, why do I need this? I can do it myself. I can Google it. I could whatever. And it was all up until you got to advocacy. And at the advocacy point, you're like, hold
Hmm.
on, we can do grassroots. But grassroots is not the same thing as having a professional lobbying kind of organization and then, trying to pass laws and write legislation and what that actually looks like at the local, state, federal level. That type of civic stuff, I think you're going to see come back and come way back. Like it's going to swing hard back
Yeah.
into saying, like, hey, you know what? Stop being selfish. And then, what I hope doesn't happen is that it doesn't take a crisis for us to get there.
Yeah.
Right. because I
Yeah.
think we were headed that path. I'm gonna totally date myself. I already said I'm Gen X, but I'm gonna date myself because I think the last time we had that unification was probably 9/11,
Yeah.
and it just cut across everything and everybody kinda came together, but you hope it doesn't take a crisis for us to, like, stop for a second and get some sort of sense and sensibility about, like, we're all in it together, right?
Mm.
So, same thing. I'm like, if somebody takes out our electric grid, good luck with your self-care, right?
Yeah, yeah. I will be the first to break down and cry. Like, no,
You know?
especially in Phoenix. Like, oh my gosh, my AC. Like, if my AC is out, I'm dead. What am I gonna do?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing for where you are, just on a side note, so in our AI alum training in our curriculum, we actually talk a lot about, we get the critical thinking. So critical thinking skills,
Hmm.
we need to get back to some of those, right?
Yes. Yep.
So like we have to kind of explain to people, like somebody on all these AI things, the engineers, whomever, are responsible for training how these things operate. So we use self-driving cars all the time, right? Which are
Mm.
all over Phoenix, right? The whole
Hmm.
Waymo. And
Yep.
talking about like somebody has to train the car as to what to do in what scenario it encounters, right? So that it's not, and so people, it's amazing to watch them go through that process and have to make these decisions that are real decisions. And the
Mm.
thing that I've really noticed is that we don't even have the language anymore. Our words have been kind of taken away from us to be able to
Mm.
sometimes just speak frankly and candidly, right? So there's scenarios like, do you want to kill the dogs and cats in the walkway, or like the baby and the athletic person? And like
Oh
people
yeah.
are like, they can't even say like, take out the dogs and cats.
Yeah. Yeah.
But right. I mean, we're that divided. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. And so what my fear of digital and all the things is that we're going to go even more into these narrow niches where we only
Mm.
have to listen to our own selves. And I think
Hmm.
you've seen some of that's the kind of the bad side, or bad actors take over. The good
Hmm.
side is I do think that, let's take Gen Z. I think they get sick of it. They've had phones and they've been on social media since they were probably 10 years old,
Yeah.
right? Some of them have had an iPad in front of them their entire life. And I think they
Hmm.
actually have a much more control of just setting it aside. And then how
Hmm.
things, and I think it's very important. I always like to stay in touch with, here's one of the things I do as a marketer. I'll give a little life hack. No
All
matter
right.
what year of my marketing career, I always look at college applications. What questions do they ask on the college application, right? Because it gives you a
Mm.
real insight into that generation, what's happening, the population, who's in the mix. And I think it's
Hmm.
important that you look at that. And the college applications have just radically changed, right? About the
Mm.
questions they're asking and et cetera, and like all the background information, how the student is classifying him or herself. All those
Mm.
things become a huge kind of a telltale sign as to what's happening. And so on that note, while AI is so pervasive and you can use all these tools, et cetera, do you know what universities are going back to when it comes to exams? Blue book
Um,
essay and a pencil.
really? A number two
100%.
pencil?
Number 2 pencil
Wow.
sharpened, get a backup, right? But, like, you better
Yeah.
come and you better know how to write, because that the whole essay, all the exams are on blue books because they don't want it on
Yeah.
they need to actually see if the student has actually learned something and
Mm.
synthesize the knowledge, right? And they're not cheating. And so that's kind of an interesting, just like final records are back, right? It's like,
Yeah. Right. Right.
what's old is new
Oh my
again,
gosh.
right?
There's so like I mean, I love pontificating and seeing where society may or may not go, but like
Yeah,
the truth is we don't know and like we're just going to do our best. And that's kind of the point of life. Stay with the community, be around people that you trust, do your best and
yeah.
yeah, make sure you aren't disconnected with the organic side of life. Yeah, health and fitness, staying
Be
staying
curious,
active,
right? Be
be
curious.
curious.
And one of the things actually, I'll give credit to my younger son. I don't know if he came up with this, but he was talking about, we were talking about top things to look for when you're hiring people in today's
Uh-huh.
world, right? And I was saying curiosity. I was like the ability to close the loop. And he's like an urgency. He's like, nobody has
Mm.
any urgency. And you got to have urgency. And I don't know that that was his,
Hmm.
but it might be Joe Rogan or something. But the fact that
Yeah.
he connected to that, that's a
Yeah.
differentiator in urgency, and that the caring, like a lot of people just stop caring. It's again, they care
Mhm.
about themselves, but they've kind of forgotten to care about, the greater good, and
Mm.
not just their personal mission, but like everybody else's stuff. And I think
Yeah.
we're seeing that. So there's a huge opportunity to your point, right?
Yeah.
So we just need
Yeah.
to make sure we stay on the side of good.
Yes, yes. That's been, like, Gary Vaynerchuk's thing for years. I remember
I
actually
love
reading
him.
his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, on Ohio State's campus, like,
Oh,
on the
cool.
lawn of the Oval, and being like, "Oh my gosh, so cool." But chapter I forget what it was, like, 32 or something, was 1 page, and it was just in big bold font, "Care," and then it was chapter 33. It's
Yep.
like, that is the
Oh, I love
best
that that stuck with you.
strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Man, it's so interesting. As we wrap up here, Suzanne, where can people find more about you, about Web to Market, about AI Owl, everything that you're doing?
Yeah, so hit me up on LinkedIn for sure. So I'm at linkedin.com/in/, Suzanne Carawan. And long ago, by the way, make sure, again, I know we have tons of people having babies. We have some, Katie Carabinus at AIL just had her son, but buy, even though we don't know what's going to happen, buy the URL of your name. Make sure you get that. Get your domain locked
Oh,
down. Protect your brand, right? Do that as soon as you can for all your stuff. So get all your names out there as soon as you can. And then
mm,
aside from that, web2market.com. So it's a number two, web2market.com. We make a lot of Shopify apps. All of our stuff has a number two in it, like Zoho Books to Shopify is
mm.
one big one that we do. And then AIL is at AIL.org. And we're fixing to do a lot more than just Ohio, but right now we're going great. So please call up my good friend Jack Spiller if you're interested in that. He'll tell you all about TechCred and how your company or organization or school or church or temple or what have you can get reimbursed for
Mm.
getting AI literate and upskilling all of your people. It's a great thing.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for all your insights, your perspectives, and the work that you're doing, honestly, to make sure that we're going to be living in a safe future. Safe in the sense of like we hold on to our humanity and we understand that we're not just in a bubble connected to our screen.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
one I'll the two last things that I didn't tell you. So I do run a boymompodcast.com, right? And I look at
Hmm.
moms and sons. I love that relationship. I don't think we talk about it nearly enough in our society. Because strong men come from strong women.
Mm.
And then the second thing is I do also have a blog called Mama Bear Tiger Teacher. So I'm very, very, very keen on making sure that all of our generations, and especially the younger ones, are kind of raised right. And you need both. You need care, and sometimes you need a little to get you going.
A little tiger in
A
there.
little dagger. That's right. You need them both.
Awesome. Suzanne, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.